So President Obama making his case for American strength earlier this morning before the United Nations General Assembly. That's as he orders ongoing airstrikes against ISIS militants in Syria and Iraq. The president is trying to cast the U.S. as vital on the world stage in the defeat of the terrorists, as well as the Ukrainian crisis and the Ebola outbreak in Africa.
On issue after issue, we cannot rely on a rule book written for a different century. If we lift our eyes beyond our borders, if we think globally, and if we act cooperatively, we can shape the course of this century as our predecessors shaped the post-World War II age.
So how was this speech received? Will it be effective? Let's talk about it with Ric Grenell, who spent a lot of time at the UN as an advisor to 4 American ambassadors there. A 40-minute speech, roughly. He touched on a lot of topics, but there are some things he didn't say that you think are important.
Yeah, I was troubled. He said extremism, violence, violent extremism, religiously motivated, but never Islamic extremism. And I think, look, you have to say it. This is a problem that needs to be confronted, and we seem to be dancing around it. You know, the other thing, John, I have a real big trouble with this line. The president said, "I have made it clear that America will not base our entire foreign policy on reacting to terrorism." Well, unfortunately, whatever he wants to base his entire foreign policy on, he's got to be able to lead and react to the current crisis. This is a crisis, what's going on in the Middle East. We have a crisis of extremism that's Islamic extremism right now. And interesting that a president who came into office as a winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, or won it shortly thereafter, is now in the process of dropping bombs on a 7th Islamic country. Yeah, you know, I think that's a good thing right now, because we absolutely need to react to this. So I don't really buy the liberal argument that this is a president who promised to take us out of war and he's taking us into a war. I think it goes back to the fact that you have to deal with the crises that come at you. You're right. It goes to the fact that you have to deal with the world as it is, not the world you wish it to be, as you wish it to be. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the major problems that we're seeing with President Obama. You know, 18 minutes in, he mentions ISIS, 18 minutes into his speech. He really doesn't want to deal with this, and I think the whole speech shows that. One interesting point, he did a great job on Russia, with the Russian foreign minister sitting in the audience, Sergei Lavrov listening to President Obama. Obama was very tough on Russia. He was very tough on Russia, especially for their incursion into Ukraine, but don't the Russians then, you know, turn his remarks on their head and say, look, you know, you're bombing Syria, how can you condemn us for, you know, getting involved in the Ukraine? It's a good point, and even though it's different, Foreign Minister Lavrov will be brilliant at making that point to the UN Press Corps. The UN Press Corps likes him. He knows the place. He speaks perfect English. He's going to be very good at turning this around. All right. Wanted to touch on something else. Hamid Karzai just made a farewell speech to, I guess, several hundred of his government ministers and so forth, and really slammed the United States, said we were not interested in Afghanistan, not interested in bringing peace to Afghanistan. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I was at the UN in 2002 when we had the Loya Jirga, and we helped President Karzai really take over and become the first and hopeful president of Afghanistan. He owes the United States so much in terms of not only capital, political capital that we've given, but American lives and billions of dollars. To now hear him say something like this is almost a shock, because he doesn't get the loyalty factor. Even if he has problems with the United States, there seems to be a different way than to take this shot as you're leaving. James Cunningham, the outgoing American ambassador, didn't hold back at all. He said the remarks were ungrateful and ungracious. Here is part of what Karzai had to say. He said, America did not want peace for Afghanistan because it had its own agendas and goals here. I have always said this, that if America and Pakistan want peace, it is possible to bring peace to Afghanistan. The fact of the matter is that Karzai has stayed too long. He's been weak. He hasn't really been able to look beyond the personal gain of the office and really muscle in with some political deals. And he's failed at the job, and he's mad that we're holding him accountable.
Been in office 13 years. Ric Grenell, thanks very much for your analysis. We'll be talking more about the president's speech at the UN throughout the hour.